basically, Taejoon's the Hwarang Do demonstrations back then was like a revolutionary. You know, they've never seen anything like it. It was just everybody was cheering and in amazement, and uh, it was like a new thing, since the sliced bread, so to speak.
Hmm.
So so once they saw the performance, the demonstrations, everybody came and paid respect. I mean,
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Live by the Sword podcast with Grandmaster Taejoon Lee and Ferny Ceballos. We've been on a summer hiatus, doing quite a bit of traveling, which we might get into. Grandmaster Lee just returned from overseeing the World Digital Championships as well over the summer, and it's been too long, sir. So welcome
Yeah,
back, and thank you for being here, Grandmaster
yeah. Hi,
Lee.
Fernie.
And as a special, I guess, return from summer episode, here we have just an honored guest, that has literally had a front row seat to witnessing martial arts history and the evolution of martial arts in America. Chief Master Yong Suk Kim is a seventh degree black sash in Hwarang Do. He's been a student of Supreme Grandmaster Dr. Joo Bang Lee for over half a century, both in Korea and America. And he's the president of the chapter of the World Hwarang Do Association, member of the board of directors for the association. And Chief Master Kim is currently working to establish a South Pacific regional chapter for the association to further spread Hwarang Do and its teachings. Chief Master Kim is also the founder and chairman of KR Development PNG Ltd, a company that it aims to transform individuals and communities through entrepreneurship in Southeast Asia. I'm sure we'll get into a lot of that, and I don't want to make this intro too long for Chief Master Kim. I think he'll be sharing a lot about his background and his story, and I'm just super excited to be having a conversation with two martial arts heroes of mine, and I'm really excited. So, Chief Master Kim, thank you for being on with us.
well, thank you for the invitation, and I'm greatly honored to be part of this the show. And I haven't had much opportunity to discuss, what we're going to discuss today for the past like couple of decades, because I've been away from the United States, spending most of the time in Korea and South Pacific Islands. So, so to me, it is a great honor, and I'm very happy to be able to have the opportunity to share my past experience. I hope my memory, just doesn't fail because it's been so long, but I'll do my best. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you're not that old. um, and also just to also add, this is really a global meeting today.
Right.
Fernie speaking from Los Angeles. I'm in Luxembourg, and Master Kim is in Seoul. So this is really a unique opportunity. So uh, I think you have a unique perspective of Hwarang Do, its evolution, its impact on in the beginnings of martial arts in the United States, and of course, martial arts was a center of what martial art evolved to be globally. And especially in the area that we were, which is in Southern California, Los Angeles, where all the most famous martial arts in the world eventually immigrated and traveled to, and that was really the epicenter of what is now what has evolved to be the martial art that we see in the world. So we want to, I don't know if this episode we might have to continue on with another, but I want to go ahead and start with your experience, your upbringing in from Korea, and your understanding of Hwarang Do then. I think that's a good place to start, and I think that's something that most people also have not heard much about. And also today, one of the other things that, we get a lot of flack is that, people in Korea or in America here, they say, oh no, Hwarang Do didn't exist. Because currently we don't have schools in Seoul, in Korea. So many martial art practitioners look for schools of Hwarang Do in recent days, and they haven't found anything. So they say that we just made it up, and we didn't. There was no Hwarang Do in Korea at all. So so for those reasons, I think it's very good to get your story and to get the facts straight.
Well, I mean, history doesn't lie. I mean, the facts are there, and when I was born in the market area where the future Hwarang Do headquarters was, but after a few years, like during the 60s, so I would be around 10, 13, 14 years of age. I used to live there nearby. So I used to walk down the street to school, to home. And, I used to see the big, huge posters of Grandmaster Joo Bang Lee with the school and everything. I mean, its presence was everywhere in Seoul, at least in Seoul. I wasn't old enough to travel, different parts of the country back then. But in Seoul, the Hwarang Do's presence was there. I mean, everywhere you go on the street, you will see a poster, and actually the existence of Hwarang Do can be testified by old Korean martial art masters, like the gentleman from who created Hapkido. Well, what's his name?
Master Han.
Master Han. Master
Han, and also Jianje.
Oh yes. Those two people. I mean, they're big people in martial arts in Korea, and they all came to United States and met with Supreme Grandmaster Lee, and I was there when they met. So if Hwarang Do wasn't there in Korea when Supreme Grandmaster Lee was in Korea, well, then obviously they had no reason to come here and come to the United States and meet with Grandmaster Lee.
Can you go ahead and explain the social, cultural, economic situation right there? There was that was in the mid 50s. In 1960 was formally established the Korean Hwarang Do Association. I mean, at that time, it was really like the wild, wild west, right? I mean, it was.
Well, in 1945, we were liberated from Japanese stronghold, and after 36 years of occupation, and we knew nation was forming, and in 1950, North Korea invaded, so we had a devastating war for the next 3 years. In 1953, in July, we declared the seizement of the war. The war was seized, and after the war, Korea became like the second poorest country in the world.
Yeah.
According to the data. So basically, it was like lawless. We had the president who's from United States, educated in the United States, and became a dictator.
Yeah, the very first president you're talking about, or you're talking about?
President, yeah. The Sigmund Lee. And of course, he was ousted by the people a few years later. But the Korea was poor and lawless.
Yeah.
And the bare knuckle fist is before the law.
It ruled, yeah.
And the bribing is everywhere. Justice wasn't there. So
Yeah.
it was a tough times.
Yeah.
And
So basically, the gangsters or gangs, thugs, they pretty much ruled. I mean, like any developing nations in those times, in that kind of situation, you have a lot of uh, organized crime that
right,
starts to develop, right?
right. You know, the funny thing is, like where Supreme Grandmaster Lee set up a headquarters. Uh, it's at the entrance of a Gwangjang market, which is very famous for people to come and eat. And nowadays, it's become a world famous place.
Yeah.
And in that area was controlled by the biggest crime organization,
Yeah.
and the chief's name was Jung Lee. Uh, by the way, his name is identical to the actor who got the award for the Squid Game. The same name. Anyway, this guy who was a Siddham Korean judo,
Yeah.
Siddham, the player, and his organization was very big and very powerful. He
Yeah.
dealt directly with the president, and he
Yeah.
manipulated votes, the elections, you
Yeah.
name it.
Yeah.
And I was born in the market,
Yeah.
and I lived after like 5 years old. When I was
Yeah.
5 years old, we moved across the street, and so I know that area so well, and
Yeah.
we used to live across the alley from that boss's
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
and we also know his wife and everything,
Mm.
and I saw his house burning, when he got executed and all
Mm.
that.
Mm.
So,
I
but
mean the reason I ask, because I know you weren't there, you didn't train in Korea. You trained
right,
after you came to the United States, right?
hmm
But I hear from so many stories from different Korean masters that were there at the time, the beginning, and and they talk about that Hwarang Do. We had what is it? Uh, 28 schools or 30 schools in Seoul alone. And then back in those days, when you open a school, they do literally come and challenge you, and
oh
then
yeah,
you
absolutely,
get in fight. And not only that, I heard of many stories about where the gang leaders come, and they would have to go challenge, and then take them to the mat and beat them down. I heard one story where Master Lee, who was um, I know you. I don't know if you met him or not. I'm sure you know him. He was a police officer after Taejoon came to the United States, and he told me a story where a gang member came and challenged. They took him to the mat and they beat him down. And then they were kind of scared, what to do with him. So they took him upstairs on the roof and threw some water on him and left him there, hoping that he's going to wake up and go home. And then after a few minutes, half an hour or so, he came back down again, wanting to continue to fight. And this happened like 3 or 4 times.
right,
And he told me that it's the first time in his life that he was so afraid that he might have beaten somebody with his hands to death.
hmm
I mean, he was that relentless.
right.
And after third, fourth time, he didn't come back, but he came back the next day. All bruised up or whatever it is, but not to challenge, but to formally admit defeat or whatever. But I'm sure he got in trouble by his boss too. But anyway, there's so many stories like that, and I hear that the Korean, the black belts or masters, that's why our lapel pin was such a powerful thing. Is anybody wearing the lapel pin? The people in the community, the vendors, they all were giving them free food, drinks, and caring for them because they were cleaning up the streets.
Right.
Yeah.
The crime boss Lee actually got executed or hung back in 1961. So when Hwarang Do headquarters was set up in that area, he was not there. He was gone. But the organization is still was there. I mean, they had a strong foothold.
Yeah.
So for Dojonim to set up a school, I mean, that's very, very. He's heading.
Right at the entrance. Yeah, it's
Right.
a sign of defiance. Yeah.
No one would dare to set up a school in that area. But,
Right.
But as you know, if you want to pick a fight, you pick a fight with the top guy, the big guy.
That's right.
Like if Ferny went up on the ring and fought lasted 3 seconds with Muhammad Ali, you will still be considered as a guy who known as a guy who actually fought with Muhammad Ali. So anyway,
there's been movies made about somebody like that. A nobody that fought Muhammad Ali, and they made a movie out of him.
I don't know if Supreme Grandmaster Lee had this kind of thoughts, back in his mind, but from a third person's view, I think it may have crossed his mind.
Oh, I know he did. I know he did. I mean, from having discussion with my father. Yeah.
That was a wise decision because he was able to, take the challenges and win through those challenges. Yeah. So anyway, after his presence was known and the studio was full of students. Of course, I was not there, but as I passed by, I always looked up.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to learn. But my father, here's another story. My father constructed a 7-story building, which was the tallest building on that corridor of the 5th district back then, and it was diagonally across the street from the headquarters, and Taejoon wanted to move the school to the 7th floor of this new building.
Right.
But my father, being a conservative man, said, "Oh, we don't want people jumping up and down."
Right.
Floor, and it was
more Schwartz school. Yeah.
Right. So, and then my father met Taejoon Nim's parents, and we all got to know each other.
Yeah.
So
But that wasn't, you didn't know him. I mean, that was not, so it was serendipitous, right? It was.
Right. In Korea, I didn't have the opportunity to meet with him.
Yeah. So you found this out later after.
But I always wanted to learn.
Yeah.
But I heard that Taejoon Nim wanted to move to our building.
Yeah.
So, I was wishing that he moved into our building so that I have a chance to come in and learn.
Right.
But that didn't happen. So, but I always saw all these posters, great, the pictures and everything.
Yeah. Oh, I hear from, from my mother, and Taejoon Nim too, but they were getting enrollments all over the place. They had so many students sign up.
Right.
I mean, it was incredible. It was a big boom.
Right.
Big boom.
And the funny thing is, from what I heard, the training was the toughest.
Yeah.
Compared to other schools, but everybody came. And there's a story that the people said that Taejoon Nim walked on the ceiling.
Yeah, he has footprints on the ceiling. Yeah.
Because he had footprints all over the ceiling. Because,
right.
The jump
that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
But later on,
they had classes from morning to night, like 10 classes, morning to night, every day. And Taejoon Nim was teaching all of them. I mean, it's incredible. I lived in the dojang, so.
Right. That's right. But because dojang was at the entrance of the market.
Yeah.
Every time the students come in and out, they didn't wear the uniform outside of dojang. It was not proper back then.
Right.
Nowadays, everybody wears it everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but they used to carry the uniform, all wrapped up with a black belt, whatever. And when they walk down the street, everybody's had to see them, because it was at the entrance.
Yeah.
So when they actually moved around, all these gangsters, mobsters, they just hide away. And so like the shopkeepers kind of respected and enjoyed their presence.
Yeah. So then tell me, like, when you came to the United States, and then and how you ended up in the started training, your early days of training in the United States, and how I know, but we ended up out of all places in Huntington Park.
I practiced. I went to Taekwondo school, but and when I was in Korea, my father didn't know. I went there, right across the street from our house. After we moved to another location, there was a Taekwondo studio, but it wasn't called Taekwondo back then. Right. It was called, Subak Do and all that. Gangsudo.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got my black belt there.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, I moved to California.
Yeah.
And
so I think it's important for people to know, though, about that. About the part about history of Taekwondo too. So Taekwondo didn't come about, the formal Taekwondo, until what was it? It was in the 70s, right?
Right.
Later.
Right. I think Taekwondo was name of Taekwondo. They started using it in the 70s.
Yeah.
Mid 70s rather.
Yeah.
I think beginning or mid 70s, after they created a association.
Right. Okay.
I think, obviously we had other martial arts in Korea, besides Hwarang Do. There's no doubt that issue, but it was not called Taekwondo.
Yeah.
So that's something that everyone should know. But Taekwondo has done a lot and achieved the great. They participate in the Olympics and everything else.
Yeah. You're always diplomatic. You're very diplomatic.
No, I only tell the truth. Well, I mean,
you don't have to be so diplomatic with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway,
we want the truth.
If you say so, like when I first took the black belt test, what the name of the form that I had to perform?
What was it?
It's called Basai.
Basai, yeah. It's a Japanese name.
Japanese form.
Yeah. Well, that what Taekwondo or Subak-do or all those things, with Gongsudo. Gongsudo is a direct translation of karate. And it is a remnant from the Japanese occupation. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Taejoon left Korea, because of that reason. Because they made that a national sport cookie, and that was done in the 70s. And that's why that he left to establish Hwarang Do in America, and hopefully make it known globally, and then try to reintroduce it to Korea, knowing the history of of what Taekwondo is, that it is from the Japanese annexation of Korea. So it's unfortunate. That is unfortunate, but it is a reality. That is true. I mean, that's a fact, and people have to understand that.
And there's another reason why Hwarang Do's presence kind of diminished in Korea. But it's not only Hwarang Do, but all other martial arts for the past few decades. It's because how Korean mothers are very strong in education of their children, and the colleges, universities started creating a Taekwondo in their curriculum.
Yeah.
So if you do Taekwondo well, then you can go to college without having to have a high scores in national entrance.
Yeah, you get scholarships, and you get taken care of from the government. Yeah, you get paid.
Judo became another. Judo also became a part of curriculum.
Yes.
And then later on, Hapkido, but that's not too long ago.
Yeah.
So everybody was trying to learn Hapkido, the Taekwondo.
Yeah.
That's why it kind of dried out the soil that could, that other martial arts could grow.
Yeah.
That's what happened. But now, because of in a way, thanks to MMA and everything else, the fighting sports.
Yes.
Now the adults are taking interest in martial arts.
That's right.
And all different forms of martial arts, and I think it's about time that Hwarang Do should start working on, to create a strong foothold in Korea. And I'm sure it will come.
Yeah. That's another conversation.
Right. It's a struggle. It's a big struggle.
Okay. So
anyway, so I came to the United States back in 1972, and my mother came to visit me to take care of me for about a year, and then my mother realized that Taejoon and all the family already was in the United States, so they met, and I was there, so I said, "Oh my God, what an opportunity!"
Mm-hmm.
So back then, that was right before Taejoon came to the United States.
Right. So you first started training with my uncle.
Kuksan,
and Joo Sang Lee.
Master Joo Sang Lee.
Yeah.
And that was in Huntington Park, California, which was a pretty good area. Now it's kind of deteriorating.
It was a good area then, really?
Not bad. My first residence was in the city of Bell, which is like a couple of kilometers, couple of miles.
Yeah, I lived in
It's
Bell.
almost a walking distance.
Yeah, Ferny, you should be familiar, right?
I grew up in Maywood and lived in Bell before that, so I know the area well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we went to school in Maywood too at one time.
Yeah, I went to Bell High School.
Bell
High School. That's where I went to. Yeah.
Bell High School you went to?
Yes.
No kidding. I went there for about a year. 10th grade.
Oh, so we have the same education apparently.
And I transferred to now they call it Harvard Westlake, but Harvard in the Hollywood, which was a big mistake.
Harvard Westlake, isn't that's a private school?
A private school.
Yeah, that's one of the most difficult schools to get into.
It was fantastic, but the problem is I moved there. I transferred there during the senior year.
Oh.
So you don't transfer to another school, even better school, to senior year if you consider going to college.
I see.
Because you will need a recommendation letters for the teachers and all that.
Right.
Get better grades than the last year.
Right. Senior, yeah.
So anyway,
okay.
For instance, I got straight A's in my 10th grade, but not anything close to that in the 12th grade.
Right.
So anyway, nice to know. Wow, this is incredible. I mean, Bell High School, out of all places.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, we're all connected, We're all connected. It's a small world.
So I came and I just ran to school, to Hwarang Do school. Yeah. And he said, let me see what you can do. Yeah. So I did. And he said, okay. And then he put me on a very strict, very hard training and intense training. And then, so that's how I started.
Yeah.
I stayed.
Yeah, so, just on a side note, right? Mm-hmm. Was it, when you joined there, was the Pussycat Theater still there?
Oh, yeah. Pussycat Theater is there.
Did you know that, Ferny? Our first school there? It was right next to our next door was the Pussycat Theater.
It's actually across the street.
It was the adult film theater right next door.
Right.
Well, it just to show you, Hwarang Do can thrive anywhere, right?
It reminds me, there was a kung fu school across the street, diagonally across the street, and it was a very small school. and it was run by a Samoan guy, and
Mhm.
he was huge. I mean, typical Samoan guy. I mean, huge and tall and big,
Right.
and he had mostly run private, courses, and actually, the guy had to shut down the school because of us.
Because it was.
Yeah, he went around and bad mouthing about Grandmaster Lee and everything else. So the Master Joo Sang Lee paid a visit,
Uh-huh.
and after a while, I mean, there was no fight. There's no
Yeah.
physical,
Yeah.
but anyway, I mean, the guy knew that he had no match for him. So
Mhm.
later on, he closed his shop and he's gone.
Mhm.
So anyway, that was what
And
do we
then
call that? The Dojo challenge, or Dojang challenge?
it's yeah.
Yeah, without fight. Right,
Well, that's always best, right?
right, right.
When so what's your first meeting or recollection of Taejoon, my father, and then I want to know how you started training, and then yeah, maybe some stories with him, and also the style of training between my uncle
Mhm.
and my father.
Well, the Master Joo Sang Lee's teaching. He's a soft-spoken gentleman and very talented, but he has a little softer style. Huh? Like I used to think that looking at him and Taejoon, it's like looking at a tiger, cat, and looking at Taejoon is like a lion. Huh?
Hmm.
He's more like straight and hard and more disciplined the training, but
Yeah.
uh, his Master Joo Sang Lee's kicks and punches are a lot softer,
Mhm.
and uh, he doesn't really demand hard work, but Taejoon, you know, without saying anything, he demands
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
perfection and hard
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. That's what I
So
remember them as well. Yeah. Yeah. The
right.
Taejoon is he's much more strict.
One of the things I could never figure out, and I never dared to ask him, but next time I see him, I'm going to ask, is that when he held my hand to teach me the joint manipulations and so forth, I realized his hand did not develop calluses. Like most people have, martial artists have big
Mhm.
calluses and everything. He didn't have much, but you know what? His fist was like a cold steel.
Mhm.
It was so hard.
Yeah.
Like when you hold your fist and you squeeze,
Yeah.
it moves, right, a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But his hand is like a one
Yeah.
piece of hard
Yeah.
steel. And I realized that I wanted to know how he made that fist, or how was he born with it,
Mhm.
without developing calluses.
Yeah.
Because if you had such a strong and hard fist, that's like using a hammer
Yeah. Yeah.
as a weapon
Yeah. Well,
versus using a wooden stick.
Well, I
Just
mean, I remember one time when I think I was like 9 or 10 years old, and we were kind of, practicing a little bit outside, or I was training, and then my father came out and he put his hand out there and he said, "Hit my hand," and I remember kicking his hand, and then it hurt. My foot hurt so bad,
mm,
it swelled up like like double the size and turned black and blue. I almost immediately,
right,
and I remember telling him he gets these surges of ki of energy two three times a day. So when he's in that time, and then when he strikes something that
right,
he can make lots of damage. I
right.
mean, I went, of course, being young and so forth, you know, I don't believe or know those concepts very well, but he didn't have to tell me twice. I kicked it, I felt it, I know exactly what it's like, right? Yeah. So
I know what you mean.
yeah.
Do you know that Taejoon actually once like threw little corn, what do you call it, beans, little beans,
Beans, yeah.
at the chicken. Hmm? And chicken actually died.
Really? Well, there's stories I heard from my parents, my mother, when they first had the first school that they had. It wasn't that the 3-story building. It
Right.
was a real rundown little hole in the wall, and my father and my mother lived together at the dojang, and they divided the place with a curtain, and there were rats running around.
Mm.
Okay, it was infested with rats, and my father, my mother's telling me this. My father's throwing these like a dart like knives, and he was throwing and killing, the rats.
Right.
Yeah,
We,
so
we we had a lot of
Yeah.
rats back in the 60s and
I guess
50s.
there's always an opportunity for training.
absolutely,
Which
every
reminds me,
opportunity.
when we were in elementary school, don't get shocked by this, Ferny, but school asked us, made the students to bring the tails of the rats, just to eradicate, to participate, make us to
Yeah, it
participate
was.
in
Yeah,
eradicating the rats across the country.
yeah,
It was a national program.
yeah,
Can you imagine little boys and girls,
yeah,
having to bring
yeah,
rat tails?
yeah. Yeah. I
Ah,
mean, that's right after the war. I mean, the
that's right.
country was completely impoverished and torn
Right.
down. I mean,
But it's also amazing that Korea actually became a donor nation
yeah,
in a one generation, and
yes,
now striving have become
yes,
a
yes,
10th largest
yes,
economy in the world, and
yes.
everything else. So we've done a lot. We've done a
Yeah,
lot.
absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so now you're training now primarily now you're training with Tojunim, right? With my
Right,
father.
right.
And so we want to hear some of your stories training with him.
Mhm.
Give us some share some stories with us.
But training with him,
Training, doing performances, demonstrations. You know,
right. Back in 1973, we went to a big, huge tournament and demonstration event. I think it was held at the Long Beach Arena, if my memory is correct. But it was a huge place, and ABC Wide World of Sports came and interviewed us and everything else. I don't know whether it was broadcasted or not, but with a little bit of English, I was able to speak. I did actually the translation, the interpretation. But anyway, uh, one thing that really was struck me was the fact that as I wrote, Dojun Nim said, "Wow, I think everyone is going to do what Hwarang Do is doing now, and the mixed and not mixed, but the comprehensive martial art form
yeah,
is
yeah,
going to become, you
yeah,
know, of what all these guys are doing, because they were exchanging their ideas and their skill. Like back then, United States, the Americans didn't necessarily have to have that loyalty to a single so-called organization. It's not in their blood, and it was not required. So they were free to go to Taekwondo school, karate school, and all this at their choice. So that's what he saw, and I mean, I think in a way he said in a positive way, though he doesn't like when he demands the loyalty, which I think we martial artists should
right.
have. So anyway, at that event, there was a guy up on the stage, up on the ring, and he was demonstrating, and I don't know why he did that, but he asked anybody to come up and hit him, with punch or kick.
Right.
And one guy many guys went up and bam, 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 and he was okay. Wah! One kiab it takes care of it all. And then one guy said, groin, can you take the groin? He said, yes. And the guy actually kicked him in the groin.
Yeah.
And he was okay. It was amazing. I don't know why he does that. I mean, that's not the purpose of learning martial arts, to get beaten and survive. But anyway, after the show, he walked down, and Taejoon was standing. We are standing, and he passed by, and Taejoon tapped on his shoulder, and lightly tapped with his backhand, right, underneath the skull, the neck. And the guy literally fell on his knees, and he came up. Right? And then he held Taejoon's hand and said, "Oh, Master Lee, thank you. Meaning, thank you for not coming up."
Yeah.
And it was like, but it was a funny thing.
Yeah.
But just to, it shows how effective a technique properly performed, is.
Yeah.
And I'm always for the precision, the execution of techniques, and that's how I was trained with Taejoon. I mean,
Right.
you know how his style. He doesn't say much.
No.
He just shows once and watches us perform, and expect us to understand the details, through our own work.
Yeah,
so
that's what the students these days, they don't understand. I try to keep telling them that Taejoon, when he teaches, he shows a technique one time, and you have to remember it.
Right.
And that these days, I mean, you tell them, you show it to them over dozens of times, they still don't remember.
Right.
Then you record videos, and
they have videos, and they still can't do it. I mean, we had nothing. We had to write everything down, and it was.
That's right. It was a nightmare. I mean, just too many techniques.
Yeah.
We are proud of it, but in terms of practicality of mastering all, I mean, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
It takes a devotion, and I truly believe Taejoon is a genius.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just to remember all those techniques in sequence all these years. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I just want to, we didn't mention this in the beginning, but this podcast is from, we're doing this due to the fact that Master Kim wrote an article in the August 2022 issue of Budo International, when he talks about all these things. So we'll go ahead and add that into the description of the podcast. So please check that out. Okay. So so you talk about then and of course, also in that article, one of the things, you said, but, in that situation where Taejoon was there, and I know what he said, that all martial arts going to look like, Hwarang Do. And you were once again diplomatic, and you put mixed martial art. so I corrected you, on that. But I want you to share your experience in the tournament, because I don't think people really, understand that during the 70s there, no martial art tournament, allowed spin kicks. There was no such thing, and they think that was part of Taekwondo regiment and so forth. But no, they didn't have it either. Karate only had front kick, roundhouse, side kick, and back kick. That was it.
Right. And, I personally love Hwarang Do's back spinning kick, especially jumping one.
Yeah.
I mean, this kick performed properly can achieve can perform amazingly well,
Yeah.
especially when a opponent is attacking and advancing towards you. You know, we move back and spin, jump and spin at the same time. So it totally catching them by surprise. And I used to love that kick, and I used to practice, day and nights, and left and right, the running in and jumping, jumping and kicking, and rushing out, backing, rushing out and jumping and kick, and it works all the time.
Yeah, that's our signature kick.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's our signature kick. Yeah.
And unfortunately, like I had an instance where I participated in a Taekwondo tournament. I used to go around and participate in all the tournaments I could. I really enjoyed fighting. So, and then I performed the back spinning, jumping back spinning, and I hit him, lightly tapped him because it was not full contact, but the flag wasn't raised. So I looked at the referee and said, "What?" And then he said, "Fight again." So we finished the fight. And then I walked over to him and said, "Why didn't I get the score?" And he said, "We don't recognize that kick, in Taekwondo tournaments." I mean, that was back in 1973, early 73, up in the, I think it was in the Van Nuys, up in the valley. So, and then many, many years later, in the Olympics, the Korean Taekwondo, Moon Dae-sung won the gold medal. And you know what he did? You know how he won his gold medal? By performing back spinning kick. And even back spinning kick that he performed was not perfect because he fell after the kick. And Taekwondo practitioners fall very often.
Yeah.
So they fall so often. Now they created a rule that they take half the points away if you fall. It's a new rule to make it more interesting. But there's a reason why I think they always fall. There's something flaw about their kicking method. But anyway, I mean, from that point on, I said to myself, Taekwondo tournaments, no more. So I never participated in Taekwondo. The tournaments from there on.
Yeah, but that was not only Taekwondo, but that was all the tournaments. All the tournaments that back then there were no, they didn't allow any of those kicks, the spin kicks. I mean, even even some tournaments that we attended, even in the 80s, they didn't allow. And so, and also the Taekwondo spin kicks that they were doing, our spinning heel hook kicks is what it is. It is not really our spin kicks.
Right.
So anyway, okay.
So
Ferny, Ferny, do you have anything that you like to ask?
I'm enjoying the conversation. I did want to ask about the tournament because in addition to your story, you were like front row to martial artists, Dojinim's interaction with other martial artists, and at demonstrations and tournaments. It's like I'm curious if any story sticks out related to Dojinim's interactions with other masters or martial artists, during that era, because I know there's pictures with Chuck Norris, and pictures with other martial artists from that era, and I'm just curious what you can share with us.
Well, basically, Taejoon's the Hwarang Do demonstrations back then was like a revolutionary. They've never seen anything like it. It was just everybody was cheering and in amazement, and it was like a new thing since the sliced bread, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So once they saw the performance, the demonstrations, everybody came and paid respect. I mean, it doesn't matter. Chuck Norris, he was very, very respectful. and all other martial artists. I have not seen one single big name martial artist back then who came and acted arrogantly to Taejoon. It's as simple as that, you know. And it was good. I mean, it did a lot to our ego. So Chuck Norris was very nice. The what's his name? There's another guy.
His brother, Aaron Norris.
I never met him.
Oh, you never.
But I may have run into him, but I wasn't properly introduced, or did I recognize him? But there were. I mean, we were almost at every single. We participated in every single big tournaments and and demonstrations and events. So everyone knew. I mean, it didn't take more than a few months before they recognized Taejoon's presence. But,
I mean, you know, Taejoon in that time, you know, he was. I mean, you think about it. You know, he was in Korea, established over 60 schools, 68 schools. He comes to America, you know, and he came with $500 in his pocket. He gave it to, you know, my uncle. My uncle took it away, actually. And you know, and he was working a day job in you know, in loading trucks. And so he had stories, you know, where he would take flyers, right? Because he would go to work and come back and so forth. In his walk, he would put flyers in all the cars, you know. And he told me a story where, you know, he got stopped by police because that's not legal. And he had to go back and pull out every single one. And he, you know, he told me that, you know, he had to go. Nobody knew him here in America. So he went to every tournament every Sunday, because there was practically a tournament every Sunday.
Right, that's
so he went to tournament and introduced himself and asked him if he can do a demonstration, you know. And that was the very beginning. And then after he got established, then of course, then now he was being invited to all the different tournaments, demonstrations. But before then, you know, he was literally knocking on doors. You know, it's really amazing. Yeah.
We were everywhere. Everywhere. So
my father's relentless.
High energy. He doesn't speak much, but
So did you know? Do you have any other memorable stories that you like to share with us, or anything that you like to leave us with?
Well, just moving forward a little bit in time, you know, I went to University of Syracuse University, and I actually set up a school, dojang, on Erie Boulevard, which is a main street. So I went to school during the day, and from the afternoon on, I ran school. And at night we had big parties and good time at the same time. It's high energy, but and when I set up a school, I was young and I didn't know how hard it is to actually make it a go of it. So I didn't have any students, just two of my friends, and David Callenbeck and Brad Bear. David Callenbeck, matter of fact, is still in touch with me. He's on Facebook from Texas. But with those two guys, I trained them. Within few months, they were able to do demonstrations with me. But that wasn't enough. So I went out on the streets actually and looked around, and I handpicked about like 6 young people and trained them. We had a verbal contract that I'll train them day and night. In 2 months, there was a big tournament coming up, so I'll give them a black belt to participate in the tournament, and a black belt within 2 months. And these guys are not novice, and they don't know anything, but good physical. So, but when they come back to school, they wear a white belt again.
Right.
So I did. I trained them. I trained them actually, you know, mostly on a defense and a counterattack. effective counterattacks, because that's the only way they can learn fast. So one guy actually got disqualified because he couldn't control, and he hit the other guy and knocked him out. So he got disqualified. But the other 5 guys all took, not the first place, but second place, the third place in different weight divisions. So we came up with a good result.
Yeah.
And I told Taejoon about it, and Taejoon said, you actually developed all the fighters. He said, "Gangpe." Not martial artists, but fighters, street fighters.
Yeah.
But I think
he said he was a thug.
Thug. Yes.
Thug. He said, "What are you, a thug?"
But I think he appreciated my performance. So it was really fun, and they came back and they were white belt and they started learning.
No, but that's amazing. That's amazing that if you were able to train them for what? How many? 2 months. 2 months, and then you get to have them fight in black belt divisions, and they place. That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean that's amazing on your part, but I think that also gives credit to what Hwarang Do is, and
That's
also it tells you the state of martial arts in that time, right?
That's right. You're precisely right.
Yeah.
Maybe it will not be possible today. Maybe it'll take 4 months. But I'm still confident that if you look at, I watching YouTube and martial art competitions and all that, tournaments, and you see a lot of these people making movements that are totally unnecessary, even endangering they're compromising their positions, and also they give away the chance to attack and score, by just not performing. They will just do a 1 kick, 1 punch, and they move back, So all these little things, if they analyze it correctly and read the opponent, and do a sequence of techniques and all together, and also, the proper blocking. We have this beautiful blocking system. Like what do you call the tapping and this blocking, the flowering blocking.
The soft blocks, the circular blocks,
works
soft blocks,
all the time if you do it properly. That, and also the blocking it, the one hand down and the other one up, always blocking the whole body, while kicking. So nowadays people kick, their hands are wide open all over the place, and that's what I told them. When they kick, their hands are open, even today. Yeah. So all you have to do is block the kick and move in, and do 2, 3 the techniques consecutively, and you have to score. So those things, and also most of the people now, when they get attacked, they move back. But I always say move sideways.
Yeah, move laterally. Yeah.
Move outside of the attack line. Then you will find a sweet spot, the weak spot, and that's where you attack. And thank God, Hwarang Do has so many techniques that you could apply in almost any situation and any position. So if you use it right, if you have a normal physique, and if you practice for like 3-4 months, I mean, you can literally beat up, you can defend yourself pretty well in Hwarang Do. So
on that's great advice on the technical level. Right. Can you share with us, like, what is the most valuable lesson or benefit do you think you've gained in your Hwarang Do training?
Well, I think the most important lesson that I learned, not only in Hwarang Do but from Taejoon Nim, is that you do not explain yourself. You show people what you are by what you do. You know, he never explains himself.
Yeah. You mean show by
Never.
action?
Right.
Don't talk too much. Show by
Right.
action.
No need to talk, but you show.
Yeah. Yeah.
You prove yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's
like the saying, "An empty can makes louder noise," right?
right. I think that's the one that I regard as a treasure among many things that I've realized and learned.
Show by action.
Because nowadays people talk too much.
Yeah.
They express too much emotions, and sometimes while doing that they get lost.
Yeah.
And they lose the real value of life.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad to see happening.
Mr. Kim, in the Budo Journal article, you talked about it was almost like almost interpreted like having the experience of being in a fight, getting beat up or getting bruised, or as part of the training and the perspective that gives you. And it reminded me of a friend of mine who's training in martial arts, and he just re-engaged recently, and he like got a black eye, practicing judo, and he was really proud of the black eye. It was like showing a terrier, look at that black eye.
Oh, you got a good friend.
And so could you speak to just like, there's a lot of arts that don't practice and even fighting, much less like having that experience of contact. And can you speak of like the value that provides, the perspective of like getting punched in the face once and how that changes your whole perspective on martial arts?
I saw a Taekwondo guy fight with the boxer, and boxer was not professional. I mean, he was a kid who probably did about 6 months of practicing boxing and all that, and it could be pretty effective, with a short period of time, even it's a short period of time. Because the boxing concentrated on their very few techniques. And Taekwondo guy, I mean, he had a very beautiful kick and everything else, but it took 3 seconds before he was on the floor. Now, the boxer got hit by the punches and kicks, but you know what? He did not fall. He took the punches because why? Because he's used to it. Yeah. Boxing, the practice, the training, they actually hit each other.
Yeah, they practice getting hit.
Yeah. So they are used to it, and your body gets used to it, and it reacts differently. Your body protects yourself.
Yeah.
From the punches and the strikes. But Taekwondo, they all light touches. They never actually get hit, especially on their face. So one punch, bam, was knocked out. If he actually had people, his friends at the dojang, put on a glove and had them to hit his face, maybe like 20 times a day for about a month, I bet you he would not have knocked down.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. If you want to hit somebody, first of all, you got to know what it feels like. If you don't know what it feels like, you cannot hit somebody effectively. And secondly, by getting hit, your body gets conditioned to take the beating. And that becomes a very, very important defensive, shield. Yeah. Like one of the Kyokushin karate guys. I mean, they practice beating each other. That's kind of silly, but that gives us a lesson too. So I think it is important that you get, you actually. Well, nowadays you can't really do a bare knuckle beating, but you wear gloves and actually it'll be very good to have your friend to actually beat you on your face with a glove and take the beat.
But I think that that also there's some life lessons there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the similar life
Right.
lessons you have to
Enduring
experience.
pain,
Yes.
after all, becomes a pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you get, if you start getting, if you're not used to getting beaten, then once the punch lands on your face, all of a sudden the whole world breaks
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah.
Huh?
And I think also I also put things in perspective. In the 70s, when you were in tournaments, right? There were you didn't have any safety gear.
No, we didn't have.
Yeah, it was everything. There was no safety gear. All
Right,
these guys right now, they have safety gear from head to toe. They're like
right,
Michelin men.
right.
Huh?
Back
And
back in Syracuse, whenever I attended the tournaments, I used to become a referee. They used to love me because, I mean, every single tournament there'll be like 3, 4 guys get knocked down, and
yeah,
and they'll faint.
yeah,
And there was a doctor, present
yeah,
and all that. But
yeah,
how can you help the guy who's got
yeah,
punched and knocked?
yeah, yeah.
So I learned this technique from Taejoon.
Did you do the revival
Indian,
right here?
Indian. You
Yeah,
press pressure point, and
yeah,
3 seconds later, the guy
yeah.
up,
That's
he
right.
wakes up and he walks away.
That's
So
right.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait, what's the technique specifically?
So
Just so
the
that.
revival point here.
yeah, there's a point right underneath your
You,
nose.
you take your knuckle.
Yeah, you push it up 45 degrees an angle, and it's called injun. It's a pressure point, and that clears up your head, so to speak. And if you faint, you press that point. I mean, 9 out of 10, the guy
Yeah.
will come
Yeah,
back.
if they
Uh,
don't come back, you have then
You have a
serious
serious
injury.
problem.
Yeah,
Right,
serious injury. Yeah.
right. But we still, I mean, they love me. But just to make sure that they appreciate my doing, you know, I used to. I mean, this is kind of silly, but all I needed is one pressure point. Bam, that will take care of it. But just to make it look good, I used
Yeah.
to do other points before, and then hide that point among other movements. Like you see in the movies. Boom, boom, boom.
it's some sort of magic sequence,
Is
right?
it?
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. Magic
He's
sequence, but
a
actually needed more.
he's a showman. He's a showman.
Well, because that's something that I learned and I can do,
Yes.
but I didn't
Yeah.
want
Yes,
people.
but Master Kim, you're also you were a lobbyist, right, at DC for a while.
Well, lobbyist, I should not say because I was not registered, but
But that's what you're doing.
yeah, but I was. Let's say I was. I enjoyed introducing people,
Yeah.
to each other.
Yeah.
I was elected as a president
Yeah.
of an organization called Junior Chamber of Commerce, JCs, back in 1980, in the state as a state chapter, state
Right.
president,
Right.
and I was the youngest state president elected in 70 some years back then of history.
Yeah.
And I was also a first foreigner who was elected.
So
So,
you work with Mondale? Was it Mondale?
and that's how I got to know many politicians back then,
All right. And you
because
said you also met Trump. You said.
Trump, no.
Uh,
But I mean, I'm an old generation.
right.
So
Right.
I was very close to Walter Mondale, vice
Right.
president, and he ran. And when he ran for president, I supported him. And but I knew he was going to lose. But he was a good man. America should have elected him instead of Ronald Reagan. I mean, though Ronald Reagan was a great man too, handsome, and I like him. But I think it would have been better, in my personal opinion, uh, to have elected
Yeah.
Walter Mondale. He was a really, really good man, honorable man. And after he lost, I was, the FBI started investigating, and Of course, I didn't do anything wrong, illegal, but they investigated. They came up raiding my house and my office and everything else. You know, I had a very big house with a swimming pool in the McLean, Virginia, and 5 o'clock in the morning, people were knocking on our door. So I went out, and there was like two guys, big, huge. They showed the badge FBI, and then he said, "Go open the back door," and it was like a half basement. So I went down. I had two dogs, Doberman, big, huge Doberman dogs, but there were three guys who jumped over the fence and tamed the dogs and was standing by the door, the back door. So I opened. I don't know how they did that. Those were so vicious. So anyway, after 2 months, they realized that I had nothing wrong that I did. So it was clean. But anyway.
Okay. Is there something that you would like to leave for our Hwarang Do students that are listening to you? Is there anything that you'd like to message that you'd like to leave them with?
One thing I always told my students was, in every single movement you practice, don't practice it with blank mind. Visualize an opponent or opponents, plural, and you apply your techniques, even though you are doing it yourself by yourself in the air. If you practice it in the air without the visualization of the opponent in presence, then when you actually want to use that technique, it doesn't relate to the target. It becomes your own movement alone. That's why you see a lot of martial art practitioners, when they go into a tournament, they do kicks like this, meaningless movements, meaningless kicks, meaningless punches they throw and make themselves vulnerable, because every time you raise your hand or reaches out your hand or raise your leg to kick, that's the time when you're most vulnerable. And it's not good. So I strongly recommend, when you practice with an opponent, visualize the opponent in front of you, in the back of you, every single time when you kick. And please look at the target when you hit. You have seen a lot of these people, when they kick, they look that way and they kick that way. Hey, how can you hit a target when you look the other way?
Yeah.
So it's got to be. It comes with practice, but it doesn't take that long. So visualizing the opponent and actually applying every single techniques as if it's real. That will advance your skill like triple fold.
Yeah.
In a very short period of time. It works. It does amazing things to your ability.
Very good.
And lastly, just hang on. Hwarang Do is not a like a cookie store. It's one of the hardest martial arts to learn, but the rewards are great and big. And it's not like Taekwondo or Judo, where everybody has their own heritage, your own owners and everything else. But we are actually a family, starting from Taejoon. So we have a clear line of our heritage, so that we can relate to and we can unite. So I think it's very important that we realize that and value and show trust and respect and enjoy.
Fernando, Ferny, is there some last comments or questions you'd like to make?
No, sir. I just enjoyed the conversation and the walkthrough of the past 50 years of Hwarang Do and martial arts history, and I appreciate Chief Master Kim's knowledge and experience and perspective I think it'll be valuable for everybody to re-listen, and definitely to read the article on Budo Journal. We'll post the link along with this video, so you guys can all read it. There's more detail and everything that Chief Master Kim shared, and it's fascinating, just really interesting for any martial artist.
Master Kim, I'd like to also thank you. I know right now it's past midnight over there,
Right.
and I'm sure you're pretty tired. Thank you for taking the time. It was a pleasure having you. And I hope to see you soon. Either I go there, you come here. We got to see each other.
Right. Thank you. Well, I took a nap for about an hour this afternoon, so to keep me up. But, well, it was really nice seeing you two gentlemen again. Ferny was last time we saw each other was in the Korean restaurant in Los Angeles a few years back. Remember?
Yes, sir. Yeah, they're going to be outlawing cooking with gas, so these Korean restaurants are moving.
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
Really?
it's a crazy, stupid.
Are you kidding? You're not joking.
No, I'm not joking, sir.
You're not joking.
There's an initiative in a few years to outlaw
You
gas.
Kidding me?
And so like it literally is impacting Korean restaurants directly.
Oh boy, I don't even want to get into this discussion. California right now, look how ridiculous it is. They're telling people to buy all these electric cars, and now they're telling them
don't use them.
Don't use them. Don't charge because the power grid can't support the electric. They're having blackouts. It's okay.
We'll find a Korean restaurant somewhere, sir.
Unbelievable. Okay.
Well,
okay,
thank
Master
you
Kim.
for inviting me. I think it was a great experience. I wish I had better and more interesting stories to tell, but
no, that was great.
That was great, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Hold on.